All right, I'd like to begin the meeting by welcoming Mrs. Reynolds back. She's had a tough time, but it's good to see her. Okay, we have any guests or visitors? Public comment? No. Approval of minutes. Minutes of March 5th.
I move that we approve the meeting minutes from the meeting of March 5th, 2025.
Any discussion? If not, call a vote. Okay, I'm assuming the motion passed. Approval of executive session minutes of March 5th.
Move that we approve the executive session meeting minutes from the meeting of March 5th, 2025.
Second.
Seconded. I'll call the vote. Okay. Superintendent Director update.
Okay.
Mr. Brown, your chance to shine.
Oh, geez, no pressure. Slow down. Oh, too fast. There we go. All right, so first, good to see everybody. Hope all is well with everybody. It is that season, award season has kicked off, which is always an exciting time. The past week, we did have two situations with our students being recognized. On the left, Diana Carlson and I were able to join Lily and Jada as we went down to College of Holy Cross in Worcester for the Worcester County Superintendent Scholar Luncheon. Really nice that these two folks, classmates, from Health Occupations. It's interesting enough that they're both out on co-op. They were both sharing the same co-op. Although I think Lily just switched to a different site, but they were at Haywood Medical Group together. And currently, they're also the number 1 and 2 students, so it's great that they were recognized by the Worcester County Superintendents. And then on the right, Olivia Kennedy, another senior from Westminster. She was the recipient of the Mass CTE Secondary Student Award. We have not got an award from Mass CTE in quite a while, so we were excited for Olivia that she was able to get that award. And you can see it goes over the full body of her work in terms of both vocational, academic, personal characteristics and everything else. So very pleased and very excited for those two students, and hopefully we're going to have many more students to recognize throughout the spring. I had mentioned to you, sent some emails out and everything else. We were asked by Representative Trahan if we would host a conversation with a roundtable of educators, just talking about what will be some of the current concerns regarding school funding, if there's any changes to federal funding, and so forth. You can see the list of the folks who were participated, a lot of superintendents. We were joined by, in the picture, to my right in the picture, where Bill's kind of sitting, is Ernie Houle from Aspa Valley Vocational, and then to his right are the superintendent, John Lavoie, and the assistant superintendent, both from Greater Lawrence Vocational. And then we had several folks from some of the community colleges across Mr. Trahan's district. We did point out to her, and Tammy and I have been pointing this out during our budget presentations as we've been visiting with finance committees and so forth, We do have just over $1 million in federal funds that we get. The Perkins funds, I mean, you guys are well aware of what we use with the Perkins funds. You know, the $312,000. We do technically have one salary with that, which would be our skills professional, Ms. Santry. Obviously, Title I, you know, for students, we do have a couple salaries in there for teachers, and the IDA, several special education paraprofessionals, and so forth in those positions as well. What I pointed out, part of the comments that I made at the table, the round table, was typically you want to be very careful about putting salaries under what are grants, technically. The issue in this, though, is literally this is monies that have been around for 45, 50 years, every single year. So, and when we did the round table, every single superintendent basically said for the exact same funding resources that they too have salaries there. So, you know, we don't know what's going to happen. We certainly have had conversations as an admin team of how we might need to respond if something were to happen. You know, everything we're being told is that the money's not necessarily going to go away. It's just going to be how it gets out to the states and everything else. So we'll see. But it was a great conversation. It was great having it, and it was honored to have Representative Trey again have us come in. Good.
Yes, I know this isn't what your report's about, but since you did have the opportunity to speak with Ms. Trahan, did you have an opportunity to discuss with her what's going on with this whole lottery system and how we're being kind of like forced into something we do?
For which system?
The lottery system?
Oh,
Did you have an opportunity to talk with her?
You know what? I knew this was her topic at this particular time.
But you
I
never
think
had a chance where
we
you
didn't
had
really
to
talk
meet
about
with her?
that. Yeah, no, we didn't really speak with her that much about that because she's not at the state level, so she wouldn't be addressing any of it or anything like that. She's a representative
Right.
in Washington, so I think her focus was on the federal level and everything else.
She
So.
still has political influence.
Of course, of course.
I didn't know if you had an opportunity to discuss that.
Yeah, no,
topic.
because again, even though we had a couple vocational, the vast majority weren't involved in vocational, so it wasn't really a topic they were going to want to talk about. So I did not contact with that.
Were all the member communities of Montachusett invited to this event?
Individual communities.
Well, the descending district.
So this wasn't our event; it was her event. So she chose who was invited and everything else. Yeah. So yeah.
What was her conclusion, what was her comment on this?
I mean, I think you can kind of assume that she saw it as a significant threat to the stability, I guess I would say, of education. You know, her point was that even if money was going to be being moved around to different agencies, those agencies are now seeing severe staffing cuts. So if you, for instance, you know, the talk is that IDA would go to Health and Human Services. Well, yes, technically IDA originally was of Health and Human Services 30 or 40 years ago. So if you assign that now to Health and Human Services, there's nobody in Health and Human Services who's ever dealt with IDEA money, and they're not going to know the specifics about it. So, you know, I think it's the same concerns that you hear in general. Certainly coming from the federal level. And then at the state level, a couple slides. I'll just kind of start off with this one. So, as we've been going around, Tammy and I going around talking to finance committees and select boards and everything else. If you aren't aware, there's this group called Project 211, and the reason where they get their name from is there's 211 of the school districts in Massachusetts. And it's actually, we think that might be FY24, because, or FY20. There's now 232. Yeah. The districts that were what's called held harmless. And what held harmless means is that when it comes to the Chapter 70 money, they get the lowest amount designated by the state in terms of per pupil expenditures. So it's the vast majority, obviously, of most districts. When it comes to the SOA money in Chapter 70, one of the things came up, and actually it was Whitney's mom who was the one who was presenting it. So I'm going to cut over to, so Tammy and I went out to UMass. The Ways and Means Committee had a joint session of the House and the state level, House and Senate, and there were a whole bunch of presentations. Tammy and I got out there first thing in the morning, and unfortunately, the first 2 hours was Desi presenting, and we've heard Desi present 900 times, so we didn't get to hear a lot. But eventually, MASBO, MARS, MASS, all presented. And basically what they're saying is, listen, the vast majority of the towns and communities in the state right now, the burden of their school budgets and basically their town budgets is being placed on them and not the state themselves. There are multiple, and many of you know this, there are multiple of our towns that are looking at Prop 2.5 overrides this year, which is difficult for those towns and everything else. When you look at the funding opportunities, when you talk about, so the Student Opportunity Act is the money that, you know, supposed to be, the money that's supposed to fit in and get towns and districts. Tammy, help me here. It's 10 districts get 50% of that money. 10 districts in Massachusetts get 50% of the money that's coming out. And then, go.
So, Chapter 70
Yep.
was increased by $420 million for FY '26. 10 districts are getting 58% of that increase. A total of 20 districts comprise 73% of that increase. 232 districts are getting nothing of that
Correct.
increase.
And we counted out that 10 of our districts
Yep,
are hold harmless.
correct.
So they're getting the lowest amount of additional funding that they could get, and then 8 of them were getting additional funds. And yes, you can assume Fitchburg was getting more, Gardner was getting more, you know, kind of understandable. And one of the factors that help or affects this is if a district is losing enrollment. It's very typical that they're going to end up being a hold harmless district and everything else. So it's a major problem that's going on right now. And the frustrating part is, so that's, the picture is actually the forum that we were at UMass. But if you, I'll summarize the two. So these were 2 quotes from the day after, and the first one is from Senator Comerford, who is one of the state senators who represents some of our districts. She's a wonderful person. But if you read her quote, what she's basically saying is, hey, we're disappointed that Governor Healy hasn't taken action to address this foundation formula and everything else. Then you look on the right side at Secretary Tutwiler, who obviously is in Governor Healy's cabinet, and his comment is, hey, we'll follow the legislature once they decide. So the 2 bodies that were supposed to be making these decisions are pointing at each other saying, you take care of it, which means nothing is getting taken care of. So it's a very, I'll even use dire for some of these districts in terms of how they're dealing with money. So we need to, I think many of you know this personally because of your towns, but I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of it as well.
Lower enrollment. Lower enrollment, less students should cost less money to educate. In
But-
general terms, if it's a huge drop,
Right,
minor drops, that we have the benefit of having a steady enrollment and actually probably
but if you see, but if the money's being
increasing
assigned per pupil,
it is, isn't it?
yes.
So,
Well, that's
but
what,
so in some instances, you might think it would be less costly, but if it's only a delta of a few students, you can't cut teachers. Your utilities are still going up, your building uses, you still have, so your expenses aren't necessarily going down even though your enrollment's going down. Because it might be 20 kids, but that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
so, sorry.
Just a quick question here. I'm just talking to somebody from a different district. She made a comment, she says, why is that some of our towns, single town schools, and some regional schools are going through this budget issue? But I look at the vocational technical schools, they do not. If there's any layoffs in any of these 70 towns, there's no layoffs in the vocational technical school. I think I explained it to her that we get Chapter 70 money, some, Chapter 74 one, and we also assess the towns, right?
Correct.
So big case in point is right now, Ashby comes here, Townsend and Pepper goes to the Neshoba 10. They're looking at 39 teachers being laid off next year.
And our only school in Ashby being closed.
A lot.
And our only elementary
elementary
school,
school.
our only school in
budget crisis like that? I mean,
It's going to completely change the makeup of our town. Families are already listing their houses and moving out because all of our students, K to 12, will be bused to school to Townsend.
Tammy?
So, just to, a comprehensive district is more salary and benefits, so 85 to 90% of their budget is salaries and benefits, whereas ours, it's lower, it's more like 69 to 70%. So I might have mentioned in my budget presentation, Tom and I and the coordinators cut 1.3 million from our supplies and equipment account. So in a comprehensive district, that would be bodies. So we're fortunate, yeah.
All right, very quickly, just keeping you updated on the status of where we are in terms of, again, MCAS no longer being the, one of the major elements of the competency determination. So what is currently happening is Governor Healy has created a statewide graduation council. It's made up of a whole bunch of folks, 36 different members. As you can see at the bottom, being run by Secretary Tutwiler. There are 2 vocational representatives, the MAVA president, who's Denise Pigeon, who's from Neshoba Tech, and there's a student from Bristol Plymouth as well. And basically what their goal is to start getting information on trying to figure out, okay, what are some of the major elements that we should be considering? They're going to look at other states, see what they're considering as part of their graduation requirement. I'm pretty sure when Christy first talked about some of this stuff, she talked about the Mass Core, which is really kind of what Massachusetts says. This is essentially the curriculum, the courses, the course load that all students should be passing. They're going to look at local levels, see what they're doing, and try to come up with a new formula, basically, of what they think should be expected from it. Now, part of that is eventually everyone's got, including us, is going to have to develop a policy. And what we'll be is guided by this. There's already some drafts coming out. Some districts kind of got ahead of it and did some drafts. Most districts are doing exactly what is, let's see what the state comes up with, because they're just starting this process. I would assume that sometime next month we'll be going to policy with a proposed policy that we would then vote on, whether at May, maybe even wait till June. But we obviously have another full competency determination policy for the start of next year. So just keeping you updated there.
Can I ask you a question?
Yep.
Is that like to replace like NEASC's vision of the graduate, or is that in addition to?
No, that's in addition to, yeah. NEASC's vision of the graduate is
So like
purely.
you'd have to have both?
You have to have something that determines.
Yeah, like your
Yeah,
vision of the
but
graduate.
what I would say is vision of the graduate is more about characteristics and traits that you expect and want to see from your
Oh, and
graduates.
this is just like your more.
This is
specific
literally, what do you have to do and what courses do you have to pass
Got
in
it.
order to be considered a graduate? I mean, one of the things they're struggling over is they want to make sure that it isn't just that the student passes, but that they demonstrate mastery in the class.
But like in a state determined way.
Well, first off, they have to decide what is mastery. So they're trying to say, okay, so if I pass with an 80, is that mastery? I mean, and if I pass the class, is
Okay.
that mastery? Or do I need to pass an end of the year assessment? And that shows that it's
Fascinating.
mastery. So, yes.
You know, not that I'm for or against, but I'm gonna go with the residents of the Commonwealth voted to eliminate MCAS for a reason, and the state wants to create something else.
Exactly,
Pretty much, yes.
exactly.
Yes.
Do students have to demonstrate mastery to advance through Monty Tech from 9th grade to 12th grade of any type?
They pass their classes. I mean, as long as they're passing the classes that are assigned and earning the credits that they have to earn in order to move on to the next level, that's about it. There's
And
no.
same thing in the shop.
Yes. Yep. Yep. All right, quickly, because I think I sent this out to you guys a couple weeks ago, and I'm sure you've been reading the article, so I don't want to be repeating stuff that everybody already knows. But again, after a couple weeks, last time we were here, we went over the proposal for a qualified lottery. About 2 or 3 weeks after that, we got together at the Board of Ed, and all of a sudden they were presenting what is now the weighted lottery. So this is the current proposal that's on board for the lotteries type. You can see up at the top there that basically, starting with the 25-26 class, admissions class, where there are more applicants than available seats, which is obviously us, students shall be accepted for admission by a lottery. So there would have to be a lottery in place for students to be accepted. On the next situation there, what they talk about is, as long as, and this is the thing that we all agreed is really important for everybody's budgets, if there is a already created district agreement that allows the allotment of seats by quota, by allocation, whatever you want to say, that is and can stay and remain in place. So that's kind of the baseline for the lottery. Should I take questions or should I keep going?
Finish up on the issue,
Okay,
and then
I'll go through it and then we can come
we'll
back to
talk about
questions.
issues.
We talked last time that what wasn't in the previous proposal, and they wanted to make sure they put in this proposal, was something, because folks on the vocational side were saying you really need to do something about student interest, because again, the interviews are going away. What they came up with, you can see here, is as long as the district that's involved holds at least 2 open houses and 3 virtual information sessions, then you can measure student interest. So here's the weird thing about that. One, for us, thankfully we already have career readiness night and open house, so we have two going on. We don't do virtual information sessions. We did them during COVID. I spoke with Chrissy Lamy. Her vision would be that we would create 3 virtual situations, and she would kind of use the model that we used when we presented through COVID. So we can switch to that piece very quickly. This allows you to consider interest, but then when you look at the things that are at the bottom, the bold and blue, this is what things you can do. You can do an interview, but it's non-evaluative. You don't score it, you don't measure it or anything. You just do an interview. They can attend a program that we offer here. You know, if they participated in VIP or something like that, that could show interest. They can attend one of the virtual events. They can attend a presentation. They can attend open house. They can attend tour day. Now keep in mind, one of the requirements now is that every kid is supposed to get on the bus from the sending schools, the middle schools, and come to tour day. So even if you're coming on tour day, it's not necessarily that you want to go, it's because you're getting thrown on the bus and you have to go. But they're considering that interest. Including Gardner, yes. Including everybody. What Mav is trying to say is there's a big difference between interest, I'm interested in becoming a carpenter, I'm interested in becoming a nurse, and awareness. Hey, I know there's a vocational school. A lot of these things that they're saying about having them just attend is more about awareness and not really about interest, that they really are showing what they're trying to do. So there's some definite concern there. I'll kind of plow through those as I get this. You potentially can use selective criteria, all right? So the selective criteria for lottery, if it is in place, but the most important thing is that this is only about weight. Every single applicant, no matter what, gets into the lottery at least once, all right? So everyone gets in once. School attendance is one thing that you can measure. As long as the student has fewer than 27 absences during their entire 7th grade in the first semester of their 8th grade, they get their name in a second time for the lottery, all right? Now keep in mind, that basically means that they could miss school once every 2 weeks for their entire 8th grade in their first semester of their entire 7th grade, their first semester of 8th grade, and still get their name into the lottery, or still be eligible to go into the lottery. I'm just going to go real quick, Jeff. Then, student discipline. Students have been, the usual, students have been suspended on chapters 37H or H and a half, or if they've been suspended for greater than 10 days for 37H and 3/4. Again, certain 37H and a half are the big ones. Bringing a weapon to school, assaulting a staff member, so far. As long as you haven't done that, you get your name into the lottery again. All right? So you can get your name into the lottery up to 3 times. But keep in mind, even if you assaulted a staff member, you're still in the lottery because you get your name in once at least, no matter what. I also want to point out that one of the other superintendents, God bless him, Mike Watson from Greater New Bedford, looked to see how many students across the state would not make that cut. There was a total of across the state, middle schoolers, 396. Every other kid is gonna pass that measure, so it's really a non-measure. Maybe I should take some questions now, sorry.
Go ahead, Jim.
I know first of all, I want to thank you. I know you're very proactive with MAVA.
Yep.
And I know a lot of things, there's a lot of conversations that, don't make it into these things. I've heard things like, obviously, if I was an employer, if I had an employee with that many unexcused absences, they'd be terminated. Even half of that, they'd be terminated. All right, and is MAVA and all these, are they trying to get these people to understand that 27 unexcused absences is not going to cut it in a trade environment where employers will not tolerate it?
So
I mean, where's your sense of what's going on out there? Because it's like, we don't have any say in this. I wish we had more pushback on that.
Right. Well, we have some ways, and I'll get to that. But so what MAVA did is they did invite some folks to help do public comment when this was being determined and voted on whether or not it was going to go to public comment. And I might have, because this happened after, I guess, last meeting. Anyhow, they had one of the gentlemen who owns Rodenheiser, plumbing and heating and everything else. He spoke on behalf, and he said, I want to make sure that everybody here understands that at Rodenheiser, if you have 3 unexcused absences, you're fired.
Yeah.
And he said, listen, our customers expect people to show up at a certain time on a certain day. They need to know that. So we've been trying to send the message that this is a little bit higher than it really
But
is.
even with that, the fact that our students not only have to maintain a very high academic standard, they've got to get all their hours into the
Correct.
various
Yeah,
jobs.
we've talked about all that
How
too.
can we even, they're really setting up failure.
Yeah.
They're literally setting these kids up to fail. And it's wrong.
Campbell.
Comment on that respect, sir. These are 7th and 8th grade kids, okay? How are you gonna measure somebody from 4 years or more of experience in a vocational, technical school setting, and you're gonna judge him because he's 7th and 8th grade, he had that type of absenteeism, because he's ADHD issues, whatever the case might be. So, basically, I just want to say, I've been teaching, my starting teaching days back in the children's tech days in the 80s. And they had first come, first served. All right, that's one of my old students right there. All right, so listen, the kids that come in that time period, they are in trouble at their setting school because they're restless, they can't handle the academics, whatever the reason they might be. You bring them into the school. The mission of the vocational technical school that was started in the 70s, mid-70s and on, this was to set up to take care of the people from the setting school that have no interest in college. I mean, that was the rule. But for some reason, as the time went on and MCAS came in, we just veered off and created a vocational technical school. The way it's set up, we just start another trade school, some of these setting schools, bring back the IA. Because a lot of these kids that need to come here can't get in here for that reason. So, my understanding, in terms of the lottery, Tom,
Yep.
that was the issue. Oh my God, we do an open lottery, some districts are going to get less kids more than others. We already have a quota system set up. Case in point, Fitchburg, with 88 spots or quota.
Yep.
Over 200 kids apply. So, Chris goes and interviews everybody, and she makes a determination based on attendance, discipline, which is a lot of work on her part, I think. So, if you have 88, 200 apply, those 200 goes to the lottery. But I think some of these teachers in the 7th and 8th grade is going to get an idea, say, listen, Johnny, you want to go to Montachusett? Curb your grades, curb your attendance, curb your discipline. If kids know that, and they climb at that level, they're going to straighten out. Because if I go back choice in their shops, and they experienced it week on, week off in the shop. Within that frame of that 1 year, total attitude change, they buckled down, they want to learn the trade, and I'll tell you, great, successful plumbers, you know, and all that other electrical and anything else, any other program. And we look back forward, kids back in the days when I was trying to go to B.F. Brown and to recruit kids to come to Monty Tech, they said, we don't want to go to Monty Tech, that's a stupid school. Well, I said, you're going to make a big mistake, because you know why? When you graduate, you're going to work for these stupid Monty Tech people, and sure enough, they are. So that's a different story, but I'm just saying, the lottery within a certain reason, at least it's giving some kids a chance that need to come here. That's all I'm saying, a little bit more care.
Mr. Broussard.
The lottery is a Band-Aid to the problem of not enough seats of vocational technical education in the state that the state needs to address. And they're trying to do it in the most obtuse way you could possibly get there, by putting kids who want to come here out and bringing kids who may not want to come here because they can get in. It doesn't make any sense, and it shouldn't be done statewide. It should be beta tested somewhere.
Mr. Hurley.
There are a number of concerns, obviously. I think there are concerns everywhere. I noticed that on the 18th of April, they're having a public hearing. I also noticed when I was reviewing this material that DESE is mandating all of this information. And they're also announced that they're appointing a 15-member vocational admissions task force. When will that be in place, do you know?
It's supposed to be very soon, I know, because they've
Will
been,
it be before the 18th?
yes, it's supposed to be. At least that's what I was told, because we're waiting to hear, like, who are going to be the people that represent that. That was really pushed, I think, Rasta, MASC, not Chapter 7,
Division 8.
thank you, Division 8, I couldn't get it. That they were one of the ones who was really pushing for getting this council made up, so hopefully it's gonna be happening very soon.
And a lot of that is dependent upon the legislature who appoints several of the members.
Correct. In fact, so it's a great point. I wanted, just quickly, I'll go through all this, some. So just some of the concerns, we've already kind of talked about it, that the weighted lottery still technically doesn't, it still allows kids to have poor attendance, still allows kids to have bad discipline, because everybody gets their name in at least once. Again, the student interest is not really measured the way we would like to see it. One of the big things that doesn't come out of this, but they still do not explain in the policy how they're going to measure whether or not the school is successful in terms of getting all the different special populations in. They haven't said how they're going to do it. We already know that their data has been questionable, DESE's data. In fact, frankly, they were basically manipulating some of their data. I can say that without blushing. So it's very concerning. Again, they're not telling us how we can comply, and the policy, going back to what Mr. Broussard just talked about, does not address capacity or anything. So what we have is we have until April 18th for public comment. It just so happened, it was the night that Tammy and I went to Phillipston to do the Finance Committee meeting. But it's very interesting, because it was the night that we had, MAVA had its spring session. And all the superintendents had gathered, and we were talking about this process and what was happening. And we said, well, at least we got public comment. Okay, what's the best thing to tell families and everything about public comment? And everybody was saying, because if you haven't signed on, please do, first off, whether you're pro or against. I think it's all good for everybody to share. But they break it down literally where they say, okay, do you agree with attendance being considered? And you can answer that. Do you agree with conduct? And they break it down for everything. And the last question was literally, do you support this lottery system, yes or no? And what was being pointed out to everybody was, that's the most important question, because it's the easiest question. It speaks to the whole thing, and it's just yes or no. So the people who are answering it, when they publish this, it's going to be very easy for DESE to see how many people say yes and how many people say no. Now we have the survey up on the screen, or it's coming up. Denise Pigeon was bringing it up. And all of a sudden she shells out, oh my God. And we're like, what's wrong? And she goes, breaking news. She goes down to where that question was, they took it off. They took the question off a week and a half into the system. They took that question off, so you couldn't just do a general yes/no question at the end of the whole thing. So,
Is that the only place we have an opportunity to respond?
right now, yes.
And
Yeah, I mean, well,
How would
obviously, if
we
you
know
want to
that?
send something directly to, so when you go there, it will give you a whole write-up of what's being proposed, what you can contact. Obviously, guys, what I'll do, if people are interested, I'd be thrilled. I'll send you all the emails for the Board of Ed members, all that. I can give you all that stuff. I'll send that out to everybody so you can have that.
at the very least, can we get that?
Yes, absolutely, Mike. I'll send all those out. Yeah, I think I had attached that to one of the emails, but I did, as always, I wrote a lot in the email, so I might have got
It's
lost.
quite the lengthy address. I mean,
Say it again?
if you don't click on it,
Yes, good point, yes.
Okay, real quick, Jeff?
Yeah, my concern is this. First of all, most public comments are just meeting the law. They don't care what's said, they don't care, and most times these public comments, almost a waste of time. Not saying we shouldn't get involved in it, I mean, we should. But at the same time, I guess, we belong to all these associations, MAVA, MASC, all these things. We as vocational schools should be getting together collectively through these associations and fighting back hard against the state. And I don't really feel all these associations that we pay money to are doing anything. I mean, we all know sitting here, we can't afford to go against the state. We don't have that kind of money. But if you got more vocational schools together collectively as a unit and push back, maybe we can fix some of these ridiculous things they're trying to push. Because we've got, MASC should be spearheading this, MAVA, and any other association we're associated. They should be spearheading this, pulling us together as a unit and pushing back hard against the state, saying this is completely unacceptable. And we're not. And it's very frustrating from my standpoint, that I wish we had the money, because I'd be fighting that we go after them legally, but we can't afford it, and we know that. And they know it, because they got unlimited funds.
Well, so with that in mind, and I'll explain this a little bit, but MAVA, MASC are doing very specific things, targeted, making sure we're reaching out to all state senators, representatives, the folks on the board. Tri-County has done a really good job of preparing. If there's gonna be a legal aspect, if you remember when we met with Kay, some people are saying that it's gonna be about local authority. That does DESI have the authority to do this? So they're building up some legal aspects of it too. So trust me, there's
Well,
stuff
that's
happening.
some of the stuff I would have loved to know more of, because if we don't push back hard, we're gonna end up taking this literally
Yeah.
where we don't
Yes.
want it.
So one of the best things, if you're gonna write something to your rep or your senator, is what's up on the board right now. So HD 4510 has been proposed by representatives, why am I forgetting his name all of a sudden? I gotta get you the name. One is, gosh, it's horrible to get his name, but I'll get it for you. But it hasn't been written by R2. We do have some. So what this is, guys, is this is basically, if this passes, it will put a pause on anything that DESI is doing. It stops them from going any further and implementing, and it creates a task force. And you can see all the different members who would be on this task force to consider what's happening. And one of the themes that I have been screaming to the reps and the senators that I've been communicating with, our reps and senators, is that the process, DESI has never sat down with any other group to talk about what we should do with this policy. I've told you this before, I'll tell you again, MAVA is ready to consider a lottery and to talk about what is the best way to do a lottery. This is not the best way right now. And so what this would do is it would shut down the process that DESI's doing. It involves 60 days of doing reviews and everything else. So this is, if you can tell your rep or senator, right now it's only in the House, but hopefully it passes the House and moves on to the Senate. But HD 4510, that's what we'd love to see people.
What about us sponsoring a roundtable and bringing the representatives and senators that are in our districts here and having this discussion, the school committee with our representatives as a roundtable here?
I could trust that, but I've done that with our reps in terms of communicating with them, and now I'm
No,
doing
bring them in
individual.
person so we can
Yeah.
address them head on. You know, like, I mean, my rep in my district are different than anybody, but bring them all in. Any rep or senator that is associated with us, even if it's only one town, we should have a roundtable that ask them to come in person so we can discuss this and maybe put that kind of pressure on the legislature and say, come on.
Yeah, I can see if they're interested in
I
doing
mean, I
that.
don't know
Yeah.
how the
We've
majority
talked about it.
feels.
We've talked about it.
And well, how's the majority feel here?
The politicians that are gonna be making these choices, they already know who they are. It's the House and Senate chairs of the Joint Committee on Education, that's two.
Yeah.
It's the House and Chairs Committee on Labor and Workforce, that's two more.
Yeah, some of the positions you
It's
do.
not gonna be our representatives.
Yeah, no, some of them are correct, but some of it also is people who are chosen by those people. It's not
A member
necessarily,
of the General Court appointed by, there's only two that do that.
yeah,
All right.
yeah, well, yes,
That only happens if this passes.
correct, correct. All right, we gotta keep going.
Just one quick comment. As far as attendance goes in the 7th grade, if you think predicting how somebody's gonna behave as an adult based on their 12-year-old year, I got some swampland, I'll tell you.
All right, moving on from mission. So, very excited to say, we have officially have our grand opening date set for MVP Academy, Wednesday, April 30th. Your invitations will be in the mail tomorrow. You obviously will all be invited. We'd love to have you there. Very exciting. Doing some of the things that are at the checklist at the end. Today, the plumbing inspector came in and we got our final for plumbing, so the plumbing's all inspected and done and ready to go. So, very excited, and like I said, we'll be sending out some invitations about that, and you'll be RSVPing to.
Are we inviting politicians to this to show this is the answer to the problem?
We are inviting them.
Yeah, so-
Whether or not they show up, we'll find out.
Yeah, but if we at least
Yes,
send
as long
out
as we're
formally
right,
to all
correct.
these politicians, this
Correct.
is the answer to the big problem.
Yep, correct. So part of this is also for MVP is, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get a sponsors program set up. So the picture to the right is not happened, but this is what we envision. In that common area space, those of you who have come down to the building, the sponsors will be putting all their logos up, their names up, large pictures of their logos, showing that and their commitment would be $5,000 for 3 consecutive years as a donation. DMH Electrical has already signed on as our first sponsor, so we're already working our way through. So that's a piece that we're hoping to get, very exciting. Our school play, it comes up this weekend. If you have anything to do, don't have anything to do on Friday, Saturday night, or Sunday afternoon, love to have folks there. And somebody's holding a big old event on May 3rd. I'm sure Dr. Trinity's going to talk a little bit more about that, but we're very excited. For what it's worth, we've reached out to some of the senior centers in our communities and mentioned that this is happening, and we're hearing that a lot of them are coming, so we'll see what happens. Should be a good event. So if you have time and you can join us, that'd be fantastic. And to the admin team, I'm sorry, I went as long as I thought I was going to go, and I apologize. So.
All right, school choice. All right, we have a motion, for school choice. Ms. Swanson.
Move that the district committee votes to accept school choice students for the 2025-2026 school year for grades 10, 11, and 12 only.
Second. Mr. Brown.
Ask a question on that?
I'm Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I just want to ask a question. So this is for school choice. So are we trying to attract out-of-district students, or this is so that students that have started here and move out of district can
Correct,
stay here?
can stay.
Okay, thank you.
I was confused, I was like, how does that work if you come in fall 3?
Yeah, no, it's just for folks who leave so they can stay.
You could come in from 12th grade if you were coming from
Another vocational school,
Another tech
correct.
school.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. The discussion, if not, I'm going to call the vote. Okay, out-of-state field trip, auto body.
Mr. Chair, I move that the district committee votes to approve an out-of-state trip for 36 auto body students to travel to Epping, New Hampshire to attend the NHRA Student Career Day on May 30th, 2025, from 7:45 a.m. to 2:15 p.m.
I'll
at
second.
no cost to the students.
I'll second.
Do I have a second?
Jim, second.
Okay. Any discussion on that? What does, out of curiosity, NHRA, what?
National Hot Road
Hot Rod Association.
ah,
Drag racing.
Sounds like a fun trip.
It is. I keep volunteering to drive the bus, but they won't let me. Hint, hint.
All right. What's that?
No, Mr. Brooks and, Mr. Brooks. Thank you.
All right, out-of-state field trip, advanced manufacturing.
Mr. Chair, I move that the district committee votes to approve an out-of-state field trip for 5 advanced manufacturing students to travel to Walpole, New Hampshire to attend the CNC Technology Applications Day on May 15th, 2025, from 7:45 to 2:30 p.m. at no cost to students.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none?
I just
Call
have a
vote.
question.
Oh, go ahead.
Is it only 5 students that are interested in going, or is there, like,
It's because the rest of the class is auto co-op.
oh, okay. Makes sense.
Okay.
It was a really low number, so bring that ask. Christina, I know.
Yes, I'll go.
That's going to be wrong.
Okay, we're good. CAD drafting.
Mr. Chair, I move that the district committee votes to approve an out-of-state trip for, I'm assuming that's 15 or 16 CAD drafting and design students.
Well, 156.
to
Wow,
travel
that's
to
a big
Rhode
jump.
Island to attend the Mansions Tour on May 5th, 2025.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Julie? All set? Okay, program advisory notes. Okay, I see we have advisory minutes from advanced manufacturing.
They're all there.
All right. Any questions or comments regarding the,
Do we have to make a thing to accept that, or? No?
No, it's just
No.
informational.
Just information.
okay, we have the special education PAC meeting. Any questions or comments on that? Okay, we'll go on to the student representative report. We have a student rep here.
Yay!
And
And
who are you?
congratulations, they won their match day playing tennis. Good job.
Who are you?
My name is Nathan Nixon, and I'm in Hopper. Our spring sports seasons are underway. For co-op, currently, we have 265 juniors and seniors participating in the program within their respective trades. Our Skills USA members are preparing for state competitions, which will be held May 1st to the 3rd, and over 80 students will be participating this year. Congratulations to Mackenzie Manuel, who has been selected to sing the national anthem at the state competition in May, and Kelsey Eichmann, who is busy working with members and advisors on her campaign for state officer. Congratulations to Mackenzie and good luck to Kelsey and all of our competitors. National Honor Society is sponsoring a 3rd grade football tournament on April 17th, and they are also sponsoring a blood drive on May 3rd. The Drama Club will be presenting Town on April 4th and 5th at 7 p.m. and April 6th at 1 p.m. The cast and crew have been busy rehearsing and look forward to a great show. The senior class trip to Level 99 will take place on Monday, April 7th, and the School of Continuing Education will be holding an open house next Wednesday, April 9th, from 6 to 8 p.m. Our Money Tech's annual job fair will be held May 1st from 5 to 6:30, and this is a free event open to the public. The class of 2026 has been busy planning prom. The prom will take place on Friday, May 9th, from 6 to 10 p.m. at Washington Park. The Hope Matters Club is sponsoring their 2nd annual 5K walk run on Saturday, May 17th at noon, and the registration is also open to the public. The class of 2026 is having a fundraiser at Panera in Munster, Friday, April 11th, from 4 to 8 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just, I think it's pretty impressive. We've got 265 people participating in co-op.
It's a good year. Record breaking.
All right. Principals report.
Maeve, nice job, thank you. I feel like I'm done here, like Maeve said it all, did it all. Nice job. So, good evening. We held our Career Awareness Night on March 6th, and I think if you remember from the fall, what we did is, in previous years, we had the academic folks present here in the spring. We switched it up a little bit this year, and we had our academic instructors be here in the fall, because we thought it was important as parents were coming in to check out Money Tech, that they also want to learn about our academic offerings and not just our vocational. So there was a little bit of switch. We had a wonderful turnout. One of the things I want to highlight again, Christy Lamy has done a great job identifying student leaders that come, that speak different languages to be able to assist families whose language is one other than English. And also, well, we do a nice little opening, Christy Lamy does, in the auditorium for families that are brand new to Monty Tech, right, and want to learn about the process. She does a wonderful job to go over the entire admissions process for those families. Again, first-time families, maybe their kids graduated a little bit ago and they know some things have changed. And then we also do the same thing in the cafeteria at 6:30. I was there with Christy, so Christy Lamy joined me. So I was able to do it in Spanish. We had 3 families present, but again, it was wonderful to be able to assist families, again, in their native language, to be able to provide that type of support for them. So we had a PD day on March 7th. Again, as you know, we always do sort of a choice model. We want to make sure that, again, when we're offering PD, that it is relevant to the people that are sitting in the room, and then we're not just forcing a type of PD that some people will put on the shelf and then never revisit again. So again, those were some of the highlights of some of the offerings. We did have a consultant doing an AI presentation that we asked him to return. He did present to our entire staff yesterday during our faculty meeting, because as you know, we're looking at drafting an AI policy, and we want to make sure that we are teaching our students, again, we're giving them the information and really learning the benefits of using AI, but at the same time also understanding that there are also some concerns, and we want to make sure that we have a lot of safety nets built around that. The skills district competitions, again, Maeve did a wonderful job. We are walking those medals. We have just, again, seen so much growth with skills, which is fantastic to continue to see Monty Tech on the map, right? And you just heard again about Mackenzie, who's going to be singing the national anthem, which is fantastic at our upcoming competitions. Next. Oh. Okay, and you have the list, obviously, of all the students and the different medals. We just wrapped up on March 25th and 26th, ELA MCAS for our sophomores. And last but not least, we held a MIFA college admissions seminar. Again, there is so much information out there. People love to just jump on YouTube, watch everything. but it's so nice to have face-to-face and have families that were present here. Our Student Support Services Office does a wonderful job. They had a total of about 100 guests, and again, providing families with resources as they step into the college planning process. And next is just upcoming events. You'll notice that before we know it, we're looking at graduation the end of May, which is crazy. And again, I know Maeve just mentioned it, but if you find yourself looking for something to do this morning, come support our fantastic drama club. They always put on amazing, amazing shows for us every year. And just some other activities. Yes?
In reference to your MCAS testing, what did you guys do to persuade the student to take serious on that test?
Our kids are awesome, and they just, well, and I think the biggest thing was encouraging students to do their best, right? I think the kids respect the learning process and our school and our educators enough that they know that we care about seeing their scores and seeing how they do. Fingers crossed, we don't know how we did, but we certainly did not see kids that were sitting down and 10 minutes later we're like, I'm all set. So I think that, again, we continue to conduct a learning environment where we want students to be successful, and they understand that we take the process seriously, and we still want them to put forth the effort and do the best that you can. So stay tuned for our scores, and we'll learn more.
It was really low.
So we'll see. Yeah, one of the kids, there are those scholarship stuff. There's like potential for which courses they're going to take, and I think for the most part, kids really do take pride in the work and what they do. So I think the majority of the students are going to do their best, and I think they did. But stay tuned for more.
And the one thing everybody should keep in mind is the only thing the state really still is tracking around MCAS is just participation rates. And I know the first day, I think we only had 4 or 5 that didn't
Thank you.
only a handful of kids didn't sit and actually take the exam. That's the only number that the state's tracking at this point.
Yeah. So next you'll see in your packet handbook changes, and one of the things, and I think I mentioned this at one of our previous meetings, every year when we do yearbook changes, it's something that we put out to the staff. I share obviously the teachers all have access to the student handbook, but I share another electronic copy and I say, okay, what are some of the things? Katie Schmidt and I work on this very closely with the teachers. Open up for comment at our faculty meetings, right? There are times that we're explaining things to parents or students and something may not be clear, or we realize, we get a lot of demerits if the students are just 15 minutes late to school, right? Or for half a day, if they're coming in, at 10 o'clock, or that kid may say, hey, if I'm going to get that many demerits, I'm just going to stay home because my attendance rate. We want to make sure kids are coming into school. So we look at situations where perhaps we're not clear again on what a consequence may be. We want to make sure that we're being fair, again, encouraging students to come and making sure that they're not getting, 5 demerits just because there are, so many minutes tardy to school. One of the other changes to in here is always updating the language of ensuring, again, that there is clarity, cell phone use. As you know, we have vape sensors in all of our bathrooms. That's something that was sort of missing throughout our student handbook, so we want to make sure to add stuff like that. And you'll see in red, the easiest thing is, again, to look at that little cheat sheet that we gave you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to also send me an email if you didn't get a chance to look at it. Go ahead.
Since we're gonna go to, can somebody talk to the vocational restriction changes? It's probably the big item, I'd say, that isn't new, and I missed it previous years.
It's not new.
Okay.
We've had that in place, so if a student is ever in possession of or under the influence of a controlled substance, we do expect before they go back to operate any of, equipment and machines in their shop, that they do provide a clean drug test.
We've had that historically, that's been in place.
That's been in place, correct, that has been in place.
So with those vape sensors that you said, you have them in the restrooms, do you have them in the locker rooms and everywhere too?
We have them in the locker rooms, yes.
Okay.
But not the shop.
Right. They're quite costly. We're lucky we have as many as we have.
So the vocational restriction
Yeah.
piece is in red though. So is
We-
that new?
We updated the language, and it was on the page, but it was
Yeah,
embedded under something.
right, we just
else.
updated the language to include professional, to add at-home drug tests
we just added about co-op, returning to co-op, externship, or affiliation. Typically, they come off vocational restriction within that suspension from co-op time. But if we have a student who, let's say, they've served their suspension, they've served their co-op suspension, and they still can't pass the drug test, they can't operate heavy machinery, so certain industries, they really should not go back to co-op until they have that clean drug test. Which is really what vocational restriction is for. It's mostly, it's not gonna really impact you in business tech, but in-house carpentry, no ladders, no scaffolding, power tools.
And these are very far and few in between, I have to say. Okay, so, good, but we wanted to make sure we have clear language. And sometimes we end up having conversations with parents or students that says, well, I didn't understand this. So we want to, again, the fact that we're revisiting this with our staff and looking at this year to year is forcing us to make sure that we are clear on the expectations so students know. Okay, any questions? No? And then last but not least is just the enrollment data that you, oh,
Move the recommendation,
oh,
approve the student handbook. Do we have a second?
second.
All right. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the handbook. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Julie?
Yeah. It didn't come up, yeah.
Go into the other window. I know. I don't like how when you're. I don't like that either. No.
I can't read that, but I'm guessing everybody got aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then again, last but not least, enrollment report, if you have any questions.
Okay, we have the enrollment report. Any questions on that?
Disappointed to see that we had a dropout. How will that impact our, I know we're measured by that sometimes.
October 1.
Yeah.
If we give October, the money-wise,
Or, no, in other ways we get measured by kids who don't complete, right? I think it's been discussed before, I don't recall what it was. I saw that we had a dropout, a 10th grade dropout, which was discouraging, and go back to the same district.
Correct.
But the student still has an opportunity to re-enroll.
Re-enroll.
And we try, we keep in touch
Oh,
with
yeah.
those students, we try to work with them to get them back into some kind of education system.
But we have to identify where they're going when they leave here. They're not always, if something was, say they're waiting for online schooling, or they're waiting for, one of the pathway programs, or it may be like, hey, you can't enroll now, but they will, so we'll be able to update that, but as the time that they were leaving, they were not enrolled somewhere else. So unfortunately for us, that's, yeah. Okay, excellent, thank you.
All right.
Well, make sure you
Anything
come to the play this weekend at some point.
Not, retirement?
Yes, just the one, I think it's,
Brenda
due
Dufour,
for from our cafeteria.
32 years.
She's only stayed there.
Okay, and we've had a few appointments.
Yep, so, let me see if I can make sure I can find them, because I turned to look at something else instead. So, on the right page for our appointments. So I know it's Mr. Zbikowski, yes, there we go. Yes, we had a custodian who had resigned back in the fall, so Mr. Zbikowski taking his place. Megan Caribou, who's been working in our guidance as an intern through Luck, will now be the new program assistant for continuing education. If you remember last month, I told you that Mary Roth had moved up from her position to the director. That was, this was her old position. Lynn Chesson is just taking a spot as a part-time childcare center. She helps out in the afternoons over down at the childcare center. And then Angie Mokes, who for a long time was our receptionist in the main office. Last couple of years, she's been the assistant to the dean's office. She will be, good luck to her, replacing somebody who's been here for a long time. She'll be replacing Tammy LaFallon, who we had announced was retiring as well this year. So, and we're going to have Angie move over, because if you remember, one of the big things that Ms. LaFallon does is she basically does everything for graduation, putting it together. So we're going to move Angie over early so she can follow Tammy through the graduation this year, so she'll have the whole system ready to go. So there you go.
All right. Policy, Mrs. Swenson.
Move that the district committee remove policy CBA-E, superintendent director's job description, as this can be obtained through the superintendent director's office. The E indicates that it's an example, but it could be misleading, so we wanted to remove.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion, second, any discussion? Seeing none, Julie? Okay. I'm assuming that passed. Mrs. Swenson?
Okay, move that the district committee delete the following policies: GBH, superintendent's consulting activities; CBI, evaluation of superintendent director; CBJ, superintendent director's termination of employment; CBK, suspension of the superintendent director, as they're included in the superintendent's contracts and also Mass General Law.
I'll second.
Okay, motion has been seconded. Any discussion, questions? If not, Ms. Olson.
I guess I just wanted to hear the other policy committee, had this recommendation from MASC to do this, or our internal?
It was something that was discussed last year, and we decided that since it was already either in the contract or in Mass General laws, most everything is already in this contract, that we could actually be misleading if we don't have it totally updated to the contract. So it becomes a duplicative effort, and it didn't make it to the agenda for the full school committee last year that I could find, so I was trying to clean up from last year.
Had anybody asked legal counsel?
Last year, I believe we asked, and it said that the superintendent's contract would override the policy in this particular situation.
I think one of the things that we've discussed extensively during our subcommittee meeting in policy is the fact that we didn't want to get in the habit of writing policies or establishing policies that are duplicating things that are already established either by law or contract, because like she's saying, it just creates more confusion. They look at the policy, and if we miss an update of the contract or an update of the law, our policy is going to have the wrong information, and it's hard to keep up with it. So we're trying to, prevent that by deleting things that have already been established that we have no control over.
Mr. Cassatt?
So these policies were implemented by us at some point.
Oh, yeah, like 2000 and whatever.
2003,
2004,
yeah.
something like that.
And I'm guessing we went through council then to make sure they were.
And then it was, like I say, I believe it was last year, or maybe even the year before, we had talked about eliminating some of these. And also had talked with legal counsel that if it's included in the contract, we're covered. And so to avoid any issues coming up down the road or whatever, it seems crazy to have it two places. If somebody has a question about the superintendent's contract, it's public knowledge anyway.
And all these policies are covered inside that contract?
Yep.
The termination clause, the
Oh, yeah.
no consulting, all that stuff.
Suspension is not specifically stated in there. It is stated in the Mass General laws. Kind of a weird situation, but I'm trying to, we couldn't come up with a reason why we would put something somebody on suspension, typically you would just go to termination almost, or something else. So that one is definitely in Mass General Law, but was not in his contract specifically stating suspension.
Didn't we just have a staff member on suspension?
That's a staff member, not a superintendent.
Situation could occur the same.
Mr. Malika?
When we remove these from the policy document, will there be, references to the aforementioned places where these are now? In other words, you said this is in a superintendent contract, it's in state law. So if I go into the policy document and look up whatever it is, corporal punishment or something like that, though you won't have a section in there completed, will you have reference for the person to, as to where they need to find that information?
It does reference, one of our policies references that there is a contract for the superintendent director. I can't remember which one it is.
I guess to just further that, Diane, I would highly recommend that, even though you're going to take out content, you may, and hopefully it will be replaced by some other link or reference, that the link or reference is stated within the policy document.
But one of the concerns
Okay,
about.
well, we do have a policy that kind of goes along like that. I'd have to specifically look it up, but it refers to the contract, the CBD superintendent director's contract has a reference that we have that, and also in CB, I don't remember specifically what it says, superintendent director would list the fact that he's under contract. So I can pull those policies if you're interested in them.
All I'm saying is a general rule, if you don't have anything in there, somebody may go looking for whatever it might be, corporal punishment or something like that, and they're not going to see it.
But one of our.
But we do have something. Our default is that we're going to go with the state rule or some other document, and then if somebody looks up that, they shouldn't find nothing. They should find a link to what we're going to rely on.
One of our concerns, I remember discussing this in our meeting, is the fact that then we would have all kinds of policies saying refer here, refer there, refer this, and that goes against the whole goal of the policies.
So we would have no information.
There wouldn't be one needed because it's covered by other means, and we can't have 30 policies that just say go to the state law or go to their contract, because then our policy book would look ridiculous. So we're just trying to stay focused on policies that we control, that's not covered by a law or a contract. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, we'd have a lot of policies that just said refer to this or refer to that.
So we don't have a corporal punishment law.
Right, because state law precedes that. So we don't need to tell them to go there because it's already there. Otherwise, all our policies say just keep going to the state law. That's just.
But it seems like a bubble, because we all know that. But what if somebody else goes to look at our policies?
Because if they inquire why we don't have a policy on it, it would generally be covered by other means.
So we're going to field calls for everybody rather than put a link in there?
How many links are we going to tie? How many policies are we going to throw a link to another location?
How many policies we really have? We have a ton of policies. So all you're going to do is replace them by a link.
Unless you do a blanket thing that states if it's not covered by policy, it is controlled by either state law or something else that covers the group as a whole. But if we can't do every individual policy saying link to this, link to that, I mean, I just think that's overkill.
Let's get back on track here.
There's also a lot of other, like, other vocational schools that do not have policies specific to that in their policy. It's up to you all.
All right,
If you're going to eliminate the policy, why would you reference the policy that you eliminated? Doesn't make any sense. So if you're going to eliminate the policy, it goes away, and there's nothing in the policy about that issue. Not a reference to a policy.
Well, we're talking here about basically two things. One is Mass General Law, which policies can't supersede in any way, and the other is contracts, which is the same thing. So, I don't know what issue is here.
I think the issue is, John, if a parent went in there to find out something about corporal punishment relative to their student, they'd have no idea what you and I know right now. So we have no reference for them.
He's into the next policy.
Okay, let's stick to, we're not dealing with corporal punishment right now. We're
Whatever it
dealing
is.
with the superintendent policy.
I just happen to be on that, but no matter what the
Okay,
policy.
we'll get to
Policy
that,
X.
but right now, let's stick to the one we have the motion.
Well, this is a grander
Well,
comment.
I understand where John's coming from, and I get it, I definitely understand where you're coming from, what we could do if you'd like, all right? I would suggest we go ahead, allow this to be deleted to now, and what we could probably do, and we can talk at a subcommittee meeting about it, is doing a, like a preamble or something stating that if it's not covered by our policy, please refer to either Mass General laws or individual contracts or something like that, you know, if there's not a specific policy listed in our policy. This way, that would be like a blanket statement for all the policies. So if a parent went into the policies and it wasn't there, they would see like a preamble or something like that that would say it's covered by other means. And that's something we can discuss in the subcommittee
All right,
and bring it back.
let's get back on track here. We have a motion in the second to eliminate these policies. Any further discussion? Mr. Olson?
Yeah, I apologize for not seeing before and providing feedback when the subcommittee had done it. I mean, I'm in support of several of these. I do think that probably the, evaluation is pretty minimal. The termination, suspension, I do think we want to get, so I mean, I would abstain from this until we have a second reading or get legal, just to confirm. There are some parts of those that aren't in the superintendent's contract as well, that are in that policy. So there's things about how we appoint interims or temporaries that are in those policies too that wouldn't be covered in the contract. And additionally, I would say that when I view the policy from this committee, that is how this board sets our overarching goals and expectations for those contracts to be formed. It could be different than that. Most of these say the contract can supersede or change it, which they do. For instance, Mr. Brown's contract has much longer notification periods in it for both parties than what our policy does. That was negotiated by this committee. So we do that, but laws come first and those, but it is at least what this committee at some point in time, not under contract negotiations, had agreed we wanted as a foundation for those. I think it's still good to have those guiding posts for a negotiating committee to say, well, here's our policy. We start from that as our basics for a contract and go. But again, I don't think it's detrimental to us to be saying, hey, we have a contract, you committed to that. But it is nice to have it in a policy that's been around for 30 years that says, here's how we evaluate, here's how we terminate.
Yeah, and these
A couple
policies,
of them are puffery, I get that, like those are added over time.
yeah,
But the main one, like, okay, how do we, making sure we're clear and legal and it's, Tom, love you to death, but termination, suspension of a superintendent can be a heck of a lot of work and a lot of trouble to get into. We're better off being very clean and clear on this committee that we've got that covered. It's one of our only jobs, to make sure we do it well.
termination, just as a point, because you mentioned termination, you must have an interim, that's required by law, we've already been through that once. But, it's took them, vote no, we'll take it back and rework it and make it more generic, leave them in. I mean, we're working at the subcommittee level, really doing whatever the rest of the committee wants to do, we try to make the best decisions. If you want to keep it and you want to make it just very generic and make sure that it's referenced in there, fine, we'll take it back, just vote it down, or I can pass over. But I'd like to have a feel for what everybody wants to do.
And I think we should vote it as a group,
All right.
so we have an idea what they want to do.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree. Vote it down and vote it up.
We have a motion and a second, let's do that, and then you can,
And you can vote it down.
Go-
If you
go
vote
from
it
there.
down, we'll redo it for next time.
yeah,
But it's up to whatever everybody else
all
wants to do.
right. Julie, we take the vote? I'm sorry, what was that?
It's a tie.
It's a tie.
Are you kidding?
9-9 into abstention.
Oh, the tie votes failed. So the motion did not carry. Let's go on to,
Can I just make one comment?
sure.
I gotta get back into the meeting because I bounced over the policy. We will still take a look at it and talk about it at our next meeting anyway.
All right. Okay, Mrs. Swenson, corporal punishment.
Yeah, this is one that we talked about pretty extensively. Because it is referenced and it would have to be, we really would need to cut out the majority of what we really state in there and be very, very careful by stating just reference to the Mass General Law if we're not, unless we're gonna do away with it. Tammy's got a comment. She's in our meetings too.
So, I looked at our policies real quick, and what is remaining in our policy is policy JKAA, called physical restraint or student restraint. I would make a recommendation because in that policy, it references chapter 72, 37G. It should say Mass General Law, chapter 71, 37G, which is corporal punishment of pupils, prohibited use of physical restraint regulations. So I think with that one, you'll still have your corporal punishment issue addressed.
Well, I think we should make the motion first so they know what they're discussing.
Jeff,
You haven't made the
Jeff,
motion yet.
please.
You need a motion first.
Well, I
Oh, you already did it.
did the motion. Are you all set?
But Tammy is correct, because we have, JKA is a corporal punishment. We have a JKAA student restraint, in which that was be involved with it at the same time. That was going to be reviewed at a later time, because it was last reviewed in 2022. So our corporal punishment really is incorporated in student restraint.
All right.
Different policy, so that's
All
why
right.
we're eliminating this.
So we have a motion and a second. You've heard Mrs. Swenson. Any further discussion?
We don't have a motion. We don't have a motion, that's why we're trying to say.
We have no motion yet.
Move that the district committee delete policy, JKA corporal punishment, as state law covers the topic. That's
Second,
true.
Okay, we have a second.
yes.
Further discussion? Mr. Prasad?
Can we hear Tammy's recommendation again, because I couldn't really understand what you were.
Oh, I'm sorry. So in the current policy, we still have JKAA, which is called student restraint or physical restraint. And when you look at that policy, it says, please refer, for student physical restraint, please refer to Mass General Law. It says chapter 72, 37G, but it should just say Mass General Law, chapter 71, 37G, which is actually the corporal punishment / student physical restraint.
So should we amend that policy with this, we're gonna get rid of this one, and we're gonna have the wrong reference on the other one?
No,
No.
I made a note down to correct it. We can correct a change on
Well,
references with.
Right, we haven't gotten to JKAA, and we wanted to delete this one because we were going to JKAA. This one is overkill, the other one is gonna cover all this.
Mr. Malika?
And the one, JKAA covers not only restraint, but corporal punishment as well. And so, as well does Mass General Law 7137G.
Yes.
All we're asking is this one be deleted because it's one too many, and then we still haven't gotten to JKAA subcommittee where we're gonna review it and make sure it's correct, and that'll get presented to you, which will supersede this one. We just need this one gone out of our way. Am I correct,
Is it
Diane?
the subcommittee's intent to
Whitney?
eliminate that one too?
No,
No.
no,
No.
just this one.
What-
Your question, so, 7137G is corporal punishment of pupils prohibited
Anything else? If not, Julie, you want to call a vote?
One more policy and I'm done.
Okay. I'm just waiting for Julie.
I'm waiting for Mr. Campbell and Mr. Monaco.
Okay, and what is the vote there? Is that unanimous?
It was 19 yea, 1 nay.
All right, thank you. JJFA, Mrs. Swenson.
Move that the district committee approve policy JF-A, excess funds, senior class, for a first reading. If you open the document, basically all we're doing is keeping it, anything that's in yellow is being either crossed out, as you can see with the second bullet, or there was an addition for the class may vote to donate the money to the general students activities fund or other fund at the school. And then we took out the fact that they could withdraw the excess money and hold money in a separate account independent of the school. You both believe that.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none, you want to call the vote, Julie? All set? Okay, let's go on to workforce. Mr. Olson. Oh, capital, good.
We haven't had a meeting.
Okay. I jumped the gun. Mr. Olson?
Workforce, so in the packet, everybody, well, it's not a packet anymore. In your electronic form, there is a superintendent evaluation timeline that we're putting forth to this committee, which if you're astute and if you weren't listening to me with disregarding our other policies, we should have rejected the policy that this violates because this doesn't meet the timeline for our policy. But we won't mince terms. We're not too late. We're only a couple days after. But we're supposed to finish by May 30th. This would have us doing it in our June meeting, the evaluation for the superintendent. So barring any, I guess, objections from this group, no votes needed. But if there was specific feedback for the timeline, we would love to hear that. Intention is to get that rolling here soon. And probably more importantly would be is the submission from this committee, probably before we get out of school year, would be good if there are goals that you want to put forth to the superintendent director that you, I would say share them with the superintendent director unless there's a concern you want to share them with the subcommittee, but it would be nice to really think through getting some feedback, I think, as part of this evaluation process to the superintendent now that we are, I would say, past the getting to know you phase of his superintendency here, and it's now into not the new superintendent program and some of these other things, it's really now towards some of the other initiatives for the committee. We really should work on some goals that make sense and align. I suspect he has some that he would like us to review as well. I know in the summer there are several sessions that the administration likes to do. It seems to work well for some of their summer intern times to work towards those programs. So getting that feedback prior to, August into the group would make sense, and then we can finalize those goals basically as soon as we get back into session at the end of August, right, our August meetings. So that's the timeline. We are waiting on legal counsel at this point to stop being so engaged in, I think, several other legal matters to get us a little bit of time for our negotiations with our two new formed unions, but they have reached out to us, looking to set up times to start going through creation of those contracts. So hopefully soon. That's it.
All right. Student advisory, Mr. Barber.
We met on March 27th, wide range of topics. Everything from cafeteria rating system to AI and social media. What are some of the highlights of, again, the students that we meet with, they're pretty studious students. They're looking for quiet spaces to be able to do studying rather than socializing. Like a quiet library or some other room. Apparently that challenge is trying to find space that is available for them to use. And the concern regarding the passing space between web science and the main building, and students to go back and forth to lunch or something like that. Concern about like some kind of supervision or just monitoring that area during that passing time. Lots of news about like mental health issue type stuff, and they're very appreciative of the mental health Mondays, and this is a Hope Matters Club that they're hoping to kind of support and get going more. Bullying type issues, hoping to get maybe more awareness to prevent versus react to bullying. Probably something part of like the mental health Mondays type of stuff. Seem to be supportive of the Office of Buck presentation. I don't know what Office of Buck is.
Officer Buck is, he was a state police officer, now he's the chief of Petersham Police, if I,
Yes.
yeah, I believe.
Yes.
It was very, very much focused on substance abuse, avoiding that, and and narcotics, kind of thing.
Vaping and stuff like that.
Correct.
They were very, they love that. They get it right up.
Yep.
And then
Hopefully if they're right.
Wi-Fi, one of the things that was brought up was Wi-Fi, primarily an issue in academic games, most concerning if there was a time testing going on, indicating that sometimes if the connection's slow, don't know what the issue is.
Yeah, there was a temporary network issue that Donnie did work to get done, but it did affect the building for, half a week.
There was this concern brought up that they were concerned about time testing, and if your computer isn't connected,
Yep.
trying to, you have to go on the computer to test, that affected, your ability to do testing. Non-gaming, cell phone use stuff, that's often confusing, I imagine. Right now, the kids can still use their phones.
They still have the phones in their possession, they're not supposed to use their phone without teacher, approval.
Was that kind of amazing that these students were kind of, they were thinking that maybe they shouldn't have their phones back? You're very studious.
God bless, I don't know which students you found, but don't give names, because the rest of the students will go after those kids.
Yeah, there was consequences. And then, they were looking for maybe a speaker, I don't know when it was presented, of moderation and usage of social media, self-regulation, all this stuff with social media, and it goes back to the mental health stuff like that. We're looking to
How many students did you have?
Five students right
Five
now.
students?
But I think this particular year, just the way things worked out, there's 4 seniors. So they're going to be 4 of those people are gone next year, and there will only be one rolling over from junior to senior. Maybe looking to, maybe still have 5, but have it diversify a little bit more.
Oh,
Get some feedback from other aspects of the school, maybe the perception from a freshman standpoint. I think that actually came from some of the students that they would have liked to have been able to put their input in before being a junior. How they perceive the school.
well, thank you for getting that committee up and running there. We had a bit of a transition issue there, but it's nice to see that you get it done.
I think we'll, next year,
All right. Okay, school committee graduation, gift committee, Dr. Terigny.
Oh, yes. As of this morning, Andy notified me we have $900 in the kitty.
All right, we're almost there.
Hopefully, we will get the remainder to make $1,000. We'll be able to give 4 graduation gifts to students. I plan to have a meeting in the middle of the month to verify that.
Now, if Dr. Terigny, one of us wanted to make a donation, how would we do that? Send a check to Tammy, or?
You can give me a check, you can give Tammy the money.
You tried that last month, cut it out.
Yeah, cash or line
Excuse me, I did it because you cashed it.
All right, so make a donation to the senior gift committee,
The graduation gift.
graduate, okay. All right. Anything else?
And this is, just to add, this is the third year, yes, that we've been doing this. And it's very well accepted by the parents, guardians, and students enjoy it. And it's a very good beginning of the award season. So that's all I have to say about that. But I do thank everybody who has donated.
All right. And we got the financial planning, Mr. Olson?
We are in full budget swing. Everybody get out there and vote for your Prop 2.5 overrides. Inflation's been greater than that for the last 4 years, so somehow the taxpayers are gonna pay it. Come on, people. I don't know, we don't have anybody who's voted yet, right? We don't have any, no, I don't think so.
May 1st is our first.
Yeah,
Is every community in a 2.5 override?
No.
I don't know.
There's talk, there's talk in all the Washington.
Massachusetts, but not in
Yeah.
Sterling.
Sterling's doing some interesting things. I'll
Taking
fill,
some money out of
I'll
that.
fill you in
Oh, I
afterwards.
saw some of the stuff.
Well, no, what Sterling's trying to get the other towns to do.
Oh.
All right. Dance committee, Dr. Terigny.
Yes, it's been going very well. I have here a list of the songs that will be played. Believe me, it's been enjoyable. Started with 600 records, down to 4, down to 3, down to 100, and started to pull my hair out to be able to hear everything complex. I get it sufficient
As I told you the other day, Dr. Terigny, I went to Woodstock and bought tickets for $7.50 apiece.
Yeah, I know. And you got stuck in the rain or
Yeah, paid $7.50 to sleep in the mud for 2 days. Okay, anything else? Yes, sir.
One other thing, Dr. Green, you might mention where the money's going for.
Yes, the money is going to the Student Assistance Fund, but anyways, the Navy, and it's also going to NOC, which is a student pension. And it's a benefit, and it's advertised as a benefit by, for the Student Assistance Fund, and benefit by the school committee. So that's definitely important.
All right. Okay, do we have any teachers' information or proposals?
You got a
You got surplus items again.
Surplus, how did I miss that? Surplus items, what do we got here? Do we have a motion? Mrs. Swenson,
Move the district committee consider the attached list of equipment as surplus to be disposed of as listed.
all right. We have a second.
A second.
All right, do we have any questions on any of the items on the list here? Mr. Barber?
Was we missing it?
It will need, I'll have to check with Mr. Trump, I don't think so. We'll send it out.
Said in the motion, we dispose of it.
It's all auctioned, yes. I'll just confirm that it's municipal or if it's another different government.
I'm with you, I believe that's what it is.
Yep.
All right. Anything else?
No, it was me.
You want to call the vote?
The financial statement?
Financial statements. All right. Any questions for Tammy on the financials? Mr. Prasad?
Tammy, any concern that only 7.5% remaining to be spent or unencumbered, with about 25% of the year left to go?
Well, luckily, sorry, Mike just texted me back and said gov deals. We'll send the link out to you. No, mostly everything's encumbered. I've been talking to Tom and the admin about, you're putting a stop to spending. So Tom and I are gonna review everything, and, I said early next week, my email will go to the liaison, tell them what their limits are. But otherwise, our salaries are encumbered, our utilities, all the big stuff, so.
Through the whole end of the fiscal year? For the entire school year?
Correct, correct, yeah,
Or fiscal year?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anything else? If not, we'll go to reorganization of the committee, and we will begin with nominations for the chair. Mr. Campbell? Yes.
I'm sorry. Make a nomination for the chair this year, John Columbus.
We have a second?
Second.
Any other nominations? All right, hearing none, we will close nominations, and we will vote to slate at the end. Vice Chair, do we have any? Mrs. Swenson?
I nominate Eric Commodore to continue as vice chair for another year.
You have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other nominations? Yes, sir, Mr. Hurley.
I nominate Jeff Raymond, vice chair.
Do we have a second? All right, moved and seconded. We will have a roll call
Evelyn.
vote.
Evelyn was the second.
Yeah.
Jeff Raymond.
we'll have a roll call vote. We'll start, Mr. Barber?
Okay, wanted to do the assistant treasurer too.
We're gonna just call vice chair,
We're doing vice chair.
Vice Chair.
just by itself.
I'm sorry?
Right, because you got two people asking for the same thing. So you're not gonna vote a slate?
What you have?
We have a contested seat here. We have to determine that, and the winner of that will go on the slate. We'll vote the slate at the end.
Are there only two nominations?
Are we allowed to speak before?
Right now, there's only two nominations.
I'm going by past precedent. I don't believe that we have done that. Mr. Malika?
How do they know why we want to see?
Any of us can speak at any time if there's something else.
I'm just saying how we've done it in the past.
I know, but
Yeah.
the rules are.
I agree with Don.
All right, go ahead.
Well, like, the reason, one of the things I wanted to make a sales pitch, obviously, for vice chair is, with all due respect, Eric's done a great job. He's been here before. He left for a while, came back. He served as chair for 2 terms, and he's already served vice chair for 1. And I think previous to that, you've also served as chair or vice chair before, if I'm not mistaken.
Vice chair.
Okay, and I think Eric's done a good job. It has nothing to do with his capacity to do the job. My only concern is I think we have a lot of new faces. I've only been here going on my 4th year, and since there, I see a lot of faces that are brand new, and I think maybe an opportunity for somebody new to move into vice chair, all right, while we have somebody that's working as the chair. So maybe next year, that vice chair might have the opportunity to move up if John chose not to participate. But I think that I wanted to put my name in for at least vice chair, so the board has an opportunity to give somebody else an opportunity for a position that somebody's held for a very long time, and maybe other people, new people, have opportunity to move up as well. That's my sales pitch. And thank you, Eric, for all the time he has served.
Anybody else? Eric, you want to?
Sure, why not? So, you know, I'm an experienced executive in a large bank. I have experience running organizations as well as committees and subcommittees, and I believe I've done a good job here, and I'd like to continue to do that for you. I'll leave it at that.
Anybody else? Well, I'll just say this. I just spent the last year in hell, and all through it all, Eric has been supportive, and he's been like a rock, and he's always come through when I needed him. All right. What's that?
How are you gonna do this?
I'm going to do roll call vote. We'll start, Mr. Barber. Mr. Malika. Mr. Hurley.
Mr. Raymond.
Dr. Terigny. Ms. Marshall. Ms. Smith. Ms. McConnell. Ms. Jones.
Eric.
Diane.
Eric.
Mr. Commodore.
Myself.
I will vote for Mr. Commodore. Billy? Bill?
Mr. Commodore.
Bob? Brooks?
My fellow Gardnerite.
Mrs. Reynolds? Mr. Olson? Mr. Eric. Mr. Eric. Mr. Raymond?
Mr. Raymond.
Okay. Did we get a tally there, Judy? Julie.
Eric, 3, Jeff, and 1 abstention.
Okay. All right. Congratulations. The only, Mrs. Reynolds is currently Assistant Treasurer, and you wanted to let us know what your situation is here?
I'd like to pass the torch to, Mr. Versailles. I'd like to make a motion for nomination for that.
All right, we have a second.
I'd like to second that motion.
And just so everybody knows, what do you do for a day job?
I'm a commercial lender at Middlesex Savings Bank. I've been So I have experience in finance. Tammy's done a great job for us, and I've been learning municipal finance, which is not the same.
Definitely not.
Yes.
Barbara's unable to do it.
Maybe Barbara could just give a little, because assistant treasurer was one, oh my God, you've been doing it for years, haven't you? And a great job. But maybe just so that for the new people, an understanding of exactly what you end up having to do as assistant treasurer. Is it just as a backup situation, or?
Yeah, for a backup situation. That's it. It's an easy position. You get a call if the treasurer is usually here all the time, but if she's not, there is a situation where they need someone to sign something, that's usually what I do. So for the new people coming in, that is a very position to start. It's not hard, it's not time consuming, and during COVID, they would have people bring stuff to my house to sign. So you just have to make sure you can read and write and understand what you're reading. And if not, there are people around that can answer questions for you.
Just in case there's any doubt, Bill, can you read and write?
I did go to Leominster High, so.
So Bill, Middlesex Savings Bank opened in 1835. So when you started there, what was the building like?
All right, do we have any other nominations for assistant treasurer? If not, I'll declare the nominations closed, and we will vote the current slate, which would be myself as chair, Eric as vice chair, Mr. Brown as secretary, Julie as recording secretary, Jeffrey Gallant as treasurer, and Bill Broussard as assistant treasurer. So we have a motion to approve that slate. Second. Okay. Okay, so moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor as the slate as presented?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. All right. It just about does it. I had an epiphany when I was driving here tonight, and I was thinking, well, this is such a big committee, and a lot of us don't know each other very well. I'd like to have a retreat, something where we could get together, and I'll work it out with MASC, and maybe, have some school committee stuff, but also the chance to socialize and get to know the other side of the table.
Not a bad idea. I think Mr. Torigny would recommend the dance for that.
I can't dance, I'd fall over. Okay, school committee information and proposals, school committee comments.
Nothing for me, sir.
Over here, yes.
I'll just make it based on what you just said about the retreat. So when I was on the Wachusett School Committee, we would have a retreat, usually around the budget time, and this could work anytime. And we really discussed our goals as a committee. So it was something that was like in the purview of the committee where you got to know people because you got to know what the goals of the school committee, what they are. So that might be a way to get to know one another as we touch it in our work as a school committee together, but also we can see what people value sharing.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's a way to get both sides of the table to talk to each other.
Yeah, very true.
Anything else? Mr. Barber?
I think that's a great idea, and another opportunity is the MASC, Division 8 meetings. The new president for the chair of that, we did a meeting out at Aggie School
in May.
So, yeah, it's a meeting and for the Ways and Means, who is trying to seek the state to fix the funding formula. So if your districts are sending, if you're sending districts that are struggling, that's a way to hopefully have it less impact your sending.
Anybody else? Mr. Olson?
Yes, I want to at least, hopefully, your school doesn't get closed, but being in a community where that did happen now 4 years ago, definitely does reshape the town. There's no way around it, I don't know how you handle it.
And there is a lot of residual animosity in the district, too.
Oh, that's true, well, I only see it from the youth side, which is drastically different. Our enrollment and engagement in youth activities is drastically different. There's other cultural things that happen too, but the loss of a school in your community is pretty core to your community. So,
Yeah, and we have no other businesses in town, so it's, yeah.
Yeah.
same thing, goes sometimes.
Yeah.
Mr. Brooks?
Oh, I wasn't finished, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, I'm sorry, I had a couple things. The logos that were talked about for sort of selling branding rights on our building, have we done that before anywhere? This is a new
I
kind of thing?
wouldn't know,
I'm trying to
because
think, I can't think of
certainly
any
in
place
my,
where I've seen
that I know in the years that I've been here, I don't know of it. But
So I think it falls somewhat in that naming policy that we have, so just, there's gotta be some review, or, yeah, we have a naming policy for buildings, it's not quite naming.
yeah, but we're
it
not
does-
naming the.
No, but we are promoting an entity that,
Yes.
that should be approved in some way, that we're not, because I could go pay you $5,000 for quite an obscene logo on your building, right, which we wouldn't allow, but I just want to make sure that we're covering ourselves that way around it. So I think
Sure.
that would fall under that policy and whatever reviews needed for that. I mean, it's not like you're naming a brick or something on a parking lot, like this is your own design logo and markings. So-
Just the point, it's inside the building, not outside the building.
Yeah, it's still, yeah, but it's still, it's kind of a, this is a new, I mean, we had like a long debates around Workers Credit Union and the alliance with them and putting their corporate branding on things and what that means. And love the idea of getting supporting funds. I just want to make sure that we've got, whatever agreement in place, that it's clean and that we've got a method for like, hey, okay, there's an approval process. Somebody doesn't come to us and say,
Sure.
hey, we paid you the money, we want to put our this there or the other one. And then maybe the last one was, I think I'm getting maybe a little confused with so many different things with the lottery, right? Nothing yet has been finally approved by DESE. Their last proposals are still just worse than the ones before and still aren't written by a literate person, so I'm not gonna get too worked up on that. I do think though that, out of all the outrage and everybody's upset, I hope that people are, if they haven't already, filled out the survey. Yes, maybe nobody reads it, but at least put in your comments. They hopefully will get aggregated. Talk to your reps and agents, send the emails to the Board of Education. I would advocate, maybe this is a conversation for us or the whole committee, at some level we are, fighting the powers to be, and I don't know that I want us spending a whole lot of money or our political capital on this fight as well. I think we should fight it through our agents, we should fight it through, but I don't know that I want Monty Tech, us individually, to be the sword bearers for this dying fight. Maybe that's being weak of me, but all I can see is bad things happening on the other side of DESE and relationships that we need to keep over, what is a pretty strong view from a lot. This is going to get morphed and changed. And I don't, probably being one of the people in this committee that my community is going to see the biggest change in its ability to send students to the school when that goes through, because we do get in Phillipston a disproportionate amount of the students outside of the, 3 classes. A few other communities the same way, so it will change our community, but if it can be fair, I don't believe their way they've calculated it. I don't think it's going to change any of that, but a weighted lottery that gets all confused, it's almost getting to be fantastic, the way it's getting crafted, and sometimes simplicity is just key. So we get to that point, I might also advocate that we don't do any of the other lotteries and just run it straight and clean and say, you're acceptable, and away we go. But, 211 or 211 or 221? 211.
It's project 211.
Yeah, 211, correct.
Kelvin?
Yes, thank you. I'm following up on what Eric was saying. I come from a community that's had concern about admissions policy here. And in prior years, that perhaps there was too much emphasis on academic achievement, which led the Montech to be more likely to accept top academic achievers rather than students interested in career technical education. And the lottery, to me, is a way to just deal with that issue, to say you're trying to put the emphasis on attracting students that want a career technical education. To kind of piggyback on what Eric was saying about the morphing of the lottery, to me, the weighted lottery was becoming complicated. A simple lottery is fine. Everybody gets a chance. When you start to have additional balls going into the bin, then it becomes confusing and people feel like it's not fair when they don't get picked. So that part I don't like. But to basically be saying, okay, there's an attendance criteria threshold, an attendance threshold that's not difficult to cross, a discipline threshold that's not difficult to cross, and then some way of figuring out how do you establish interest in coming to Montech. The other comment that was made here tonight was about lack of seats, and I've heard that a lot, and I get a little concerned when the immediate response is expanding Montech and having more students come to Montech, coming from a community that I think maybe has about 200 students per class in the district, and you're taking 35 out already, to then take out another 10 or 15, you're starting to take a good chunk of the class out of the district. When I say 200 per class, I graduated 50 years ago, but it was a class of 300. So that's how much Gardner as a community has shrunk over the last 50 years. And so anything that threatens the Gardner school system is going to run into resistance. It's going to create resistance when Montech's trying to do something in terms of just expanding seats within the building. I think there are a couple of other ways to do it. One way is to say, all right, we've got this MVP program. Is that a way to get more seats in? And I think we all kind of agree that it seems like a good solution to some of this problem. The other question that I have, and I don't know the particulars, because I leave that to the educators in the room. My understanding is that there's a non-compete understanding with Chapter 74 that if Montech is offering something, let's say the Gardner school system cannot offer it as a trade. So then how do you find a way that you can have some trades or some career program within a traditional high school that doesn't compete directly with Montech, but allows for those students that didn't get into the career technical education school to have access to some kind of education like that? And that's a harder thing to figure out. But I think that's, my feeling is that's kind of what has to be thought of here. And we have to be careful that we're not just having a knee-jerk reaction to whatever's being proposed, that there are some ways maybe that if we think about it, we can have it work so that Montech continues to offer a top-rate career technical education. How am I doing? CTE, career technical education. CTE. But also allowing for each of the individual traditional public high schools to be successful in what they're offering. So that's just my thought. Thank you.
Just to clarify, in terms of adding a new program, it's not that you can't add it, it's just that you basically have to check with the regional vocational if they're okay with you adding that.
Okay.
Which Leominster reached out to us a couple years ago asking if they wanted to add a program we already had in place, and we told them go right ahead, we don't care, add it, no problem. So it's not that you can't, it's just you technically
And that's where I think that there could be a conversation. Instead of just saying, we need more seats, so we need to make Montech bigger, are there other ways to provide that education that don't threaten the stability of the individual traditional high schools?
Just a 2-second question. I know Tom mentioned about, as we're looking at this MVP finally opening up and see how it goes. And he says, well, if that goes great, maybe we should go and lease more buildings and expand on that and that. It just gets to be an expensive project. Have Montech or maybe a conversation if it came up where you go to, well, Gardner's, you're already on MVP, but let's say another district that want to come in here and they can't. Would you ever consider doing MVP at the sending school? You hire the teachers, juniors and seniors could get on board, and the money would come to the school year in just the same format, but it'd be Montech MVP program at Sterling,
But it would only be the only thing we would be having is our instructors.
You have to
would
hire
be
your-
at that
Right.
district. So it really wouldn't involve us. If that were the case.
But you have to
then-
sanction it, I'm just saying, it's part of being MVP, you have to be part of Montech in terms of.
Well, or it could be within the school, it just Montech just has to say, okay,
Right.
is what you're telling me.
Yeah, it's
So-
more,
so if Gardner
I
said-
think it would end up being more of what Mr. Brooks talked about, where the sending district would start the program and just basically run it
Contract
themselves.
us to run it or something.
Yeah,
Could contract to run it, or just,
Yeah, that's what
Just
I meant,
have the
contract
okay.
to run it, that way, the kids will be there doing the week on, week off and
Yeah.
modify
I
it.
just, right now, the only reason we're gonna get money back is because the kids are, we get the chapter 74 money, in that model.
Right.
They keep the
It's a-
777.
We would be paying for the instructors to teach their kids, basically.
Or share a cost of the instructors,
Yeah.
I don't know how, there's ways to do it. Just
Mr.
a suggestion.
I had a question and a couple of comments. In prior years, before board docs, we used to get a packet of all the information in the mail that was gonna be addressed at the meeting.
Yeah.
And that arrived to our houses
Friday before the meeting.
Yeah.
Friday
Nice to have
before the
stack-
meeting.
Nice to have stacks of
And I'll go on to the website the Friday before the meeting to look at the board docs, and I don't find a lot of the information that I addressed, like today, stuff I didn't see until then.
You don't get an
Is-
email?
I don't get emails on anything. Never get emails, very rarely.
Go see our hard tech guy.
Is there a time frame that we require, or can we establish a time frame for stuff that's gonna be discussed at the meeting?
Comes up in the computer. Board doc. You get a board doc.
So you mean the physical attachments?
Yeah, can I see what's gonna be presented? Like, I didn't feel like I saw everything I went in maybe Monday afternoon, and I looked from work, and I didn't see everything there.
Call Julie.
Is there a timeline that we establish, this is when you have to have your stuff by for the school committee meeting on Wednesday?
I give you what I get, sir.
You put it up when it comes in. So can we establish a timeline similar to what we had with the paper?
Specifically, what things are missing, I think, let us know what that is, and we'll make an effort to include them.
The program studies.
I can't even open mine at home.
The program studies?
Well,
I don't
the
think I
handbook.
saw the
handbook.
handbook, I didn't see that.
The student handbook.
And there's been a number of items that don't get put up till, and maybe Julie can attest that sometimes stuff is up there late, I don't know. I seem like I look and I don't see stuff. Tom's report wasn't
It's
there
not
on
like
that
a little paper.
Yeah, mine typically, even when I first came on, it was gonna be late, because I always wait to try to get there to have any last minute thing that we need to go over.
Yeah?
Typically, we try to have everything into Julie by 48 hours, so Monday night at the latest.
But we would get it in the mail on Friday.
Yes, correct.
So it had to be printed, mailed, and got to us by Friday. Now we have electronics and we've pushed that, I think we should bring it back a little bit so we have more time to digest some of the information maybe. Just a suggestion. And then my other comments were to the issues around comprehensive schools versus vocational schools and sending districts that have problems with their comprehensive schools population. And I'm not so sure that it's entirely our fault here at Montech. I feel like we're getting blamed for that.
No.
When the the comprehensive schools may not be at the level that the students, parents, townspeople want their kids to go to those schools, and maybe they need to look inward as opposed to looking outward towards us
Well,
to solve those
the
problems.
the problem is that student enrollment statewide has been going down for 20 years. So there's fewer, the pie is getting smaller.
My other point about these middle school students coming into vocational and making a decision as 13 or 14-year-olds what they want to do for the rest of their lives. I don't know anybody, maybe my wife is an exception, she's a nurse and she wanted to be a nurse when she was 8, but very few people I know, and none of my kids knew what they wanted to be. My youngest son came here, my other two went to Montachusett. He came for electrical, then he went to Fitchburg State for a pre-physical therapy track, and he doesn't want to do that either. So, I don't know that we can say we're giving the wrong students the seats because they don't become what they said they wanted to be when they were 13 years old. I don't think that's a fair representation of our educational process here.
Well, 25 years ago, I took my daughter to UMass in the parent orientation, and they said the average UMass graduate changed their major 2.4 times. And those are 18 to 22-year-olds. You're dealing with a 12 or 13-year-old? Okay. Real quick, Mr. Hurley.
Yeah, on a positive note, last month, on March 16th, my Rotary Club in Fitchburg had their annual Super Bowl brunch, which was changed to St. Patrick's Day. And it was very successful. We had an event, and I want to say we cannot thank Montachusett for everything he did for us. Everybody was wonderful. The people that were hosting it, everybody who worked on it. It was a very successful event, and we're considering changing the date to St. Patrick's Day in the future. So
Everybody have fun.
very good, and I just want to say, other than the fact we had a couple of fire drills, everything went fine.
We apologize for that part.
Yeah.
Less money
So
now.
John?
A couple of things. I think we have a policy guiding us for taking outside money and using it here. Number two, I think, Bob, you were talking about sending people to the schools, whether it was instructors to other district schools.
To continue the MVP at the Sunday
Yeah,
school.
I think you're recommending we start the strategy committee
Well, real quick,
Yeah, Blackwell last time.
about 10 years ago.
real quick, I've seen that there's several construction projects going on in the state with new vocational schools. And they're looking at between $300 million to $500 million to build a new school. And I don't personally think that is something you can sell in our district. I think the answer is satellite programs like the MVP, and also like somebody mentioned here, collaboration with the local schools who have, their enrollment's down, they have excess space, that we could work and with them to develop programs. So I think that's the way to go.
And just so everybody knows, I think I mentioned before, there are two other bills at the State House now that speak to, specifically to expanding existing, so renovations, trying to get more money through the MSBA and giving better rates through the MSBA, specifically for vocational schools.
Yeah, Evelyn,
The other thing I'd kind of like to piggyback with, we're talking about at the age of 13, kids not knowing what they want to do in the future. I think that also, we need to think about the kids who may not have options or different choices as they get older. Sometimes a trade school is your future. You just have to pick a trade and get out and work and support your family. So I think that's another aspect that we have to consider.
that is a very important aspect. John?
Somebody mentioned that statewide or specifically in certain districts, that populations of students have gone down. And that's true, but they have not here.
They what?
They have not gone down here. They
Not
seem to
here.
go up. The
No.
waiting line is much longer. We used to have 750 students in the schools.
Well,
We've
that's it.
doubled that now, we have doubled that waiting. Somebody mentioned that in
Well, you have to look at it from the comprehensive standpoint. They lose kids coming here, they lose kids to charter schools, and their pie is shrinking.
I think the concern for a parent, I have 2 middle school students. Our numbers in North Middlesex have dropped. Last year, we lost almost 90 students from 8th grade to 9th grade. Our families are moving out of our district. They're choosing alternative schooling. So as our enrollment numbers are dropping, our 6 slots in Mashpee are gonna go down to 5. They're gonna go down to 4. Our sending district is already not doing enough for our students. So to have the regional vocational part of it also suffer, it's going to impact these students in a huge, huge way. Because their sending district, we're losing 27 teachers. We're closing an town's only elementary school. That's going to impact all of the numbers in our district. So our numbers, unfortunately, for Montachusett might be affected by that.
Anything else? Yes, Diane?
One quick question, comment. And John's correct, when we put the additions on both ends of the building, et cetera, the last major addition to the building, we were expected, and we were told, and that started like in '96, was completed in 2000, and it was expected that we would then have growth to go up to 1,250 kids, but it would be about 10 years out before you'd reach that. Well, we reached that, I think, within 3 years, and now we're 1,440 roughly. And, but we are also at a point that you cannot add to the building itself without totally renovating the entire building for infrastructure and especially for fire alarms and sprinkler system. And a lot of this building is not under sprinkler system. So that's why we can't add on to the building itself, but we have like the satellite buildings, or we have the vet science building. MVP, that seems to be about the best way to go, as being a fair way for comprehensive schools and for vocational schools. If you were going to do something in one particular town, I'll pick on Gardner, because they have an empty building, and we're going to do that, well, then they've got to make sure that they open that up for other schools, sending schools that would be impacted by our district, because if we're going to be involved with it like that, then it can't be just Gardner kids. It would have to be Phillipston's kids, or Lunenburg's kids, or Ashburnham's kids added into it if they wanted to go as an MVP program. Because right now, this is strictly as a pilot program, but it sounds like it's doing well, and it sounds like it could be the wave of the future. And don't forget that vocational, for a comprehensive school, to try to get into a lot of these shops, unless they keep it the simplistic shops, it's extremely expensive. So, and there's a lot of requirements for the size of the shops, et cetera, that you would have to be able to do.
Real quickly, I know this is.
Real quick.
We could talk for another hour about this.
We're gonna, Tom's gonna turn into a pumpkin at 9 o'clock.
It's not pretty.
2 minutes here. So, that's a valid point, which is understandable, and we can't expand here anymore.
No.
When we look at the population of the school right now is about.
1440.
Okay, that's huge, okay? So what Mr. Brooks is saying about some of these sending schools, one-town communities, if you got like 89 kids that are in the 8th grade, and if there's a 20 or 18 slots for they end up with like 70-something kids, few of them choice out here and there, they end up graduating like, 60 kids as a senior. So how can they sustain financially to keep paying the teachers and so on? Andy just said, the majority of the money is the salary of the teachers, right? So example of your school, 27 teachers, 30 teachers, they gotta go. There's no equipment to worry about, right? So MVP, that's, keep the kids there, work it somehow that Monty gets credit for it, financially, some respects, they can work it out, and I think it'd be a great partnership.
Anything else? If not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.